Ideas and not battles mark the forward progress of mankind. When reading a book, be very certain that you never go past a word you do not fully understand. The only reason a person gives up a study or becomes confused or unable to learn is because he or she has gone past a word that was not understood. To love in spite of all is the secret of greatness, and may very well be the greatest secret in this universe. You don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich, you start a religion. One's attitude toward life makes every possible difference in one's living. You know, you don't have to study 1,000 ancient books to discover that fact. But sometimes it needs to be pointed out again that life doesn't change so much as you. The day when you stop building your own environment, when you stop building your own surroundings, when you stop waving a magic hand and gracing everything around you with magic and beauty, things cease to be magical, things cease to be beautiful. Well, maybe you've just neglected somewhere back in the last few years to wave that magic hand. Decision and time have a lot in common. When we have clear decision, we have clear time. And when we have indecision, there is an unclarity about time. The wise man tests before he talks. The critic but follows the fad of a cynical and apathetic age. A culture is only as great as its dreams, and its dreams are dreamed by artists. What is generally missed, is that my writing financed research. Happiness and strength endure only in the absence of hate. To hate alone is the road to disaster. To love is the road to strength. To love in spite of all is the secret of greatness, and may very well be the greatest secret in this universe. Scientology does not teach you. It only reminds you. For the information was yours in the first place. L. Ron Hubbard, Scientology, The Fundamentals of Thought. A civilization is as great as its dreams, and its dreams are dreamt by artists. Freedom is for honest people. No man who is not himself honest can be free, he is his own trap. Anything you shun will have won. I'll not always be here on guard. The stars twinkle in the Milky Way and the wind sighs for songs across the empty fields of a planet a galaxy away. You won't always be here. Writing for a penny a word is ridiculous. If a man wants to make $1 million, the best way would be to start his own religion. All real difficulty stems from no responsibility. Full responsibility is not fault, it is recognition of being cause. Learning locked in mildewed books is of little use to anyone and therefore of no value unless it can be used. Stress the right of the individual to select only what he desires to know, to use any knowledge as he wishes, that he himself owns what he has learned. A man is known by the company who he keeps. Man, said Turrell, is an endangered species. L. Ron Hubbard, Battlefield Earth, a saga of the year 3000. Bureaucracy is trouble everybody has. It's a system evolved so that nobody in it is ever responsible for anything. L. Ron Hubbard, The Invader's Plan. Man is an endangered species. A bitter hatred was lifting his lip from his teeth. Of course, said Doris, charmed by all this interest. One moment we are seated here, behaving normally, and the next some tiny thing, a certain voice, a certain combination of thoughts may throw out the balance wheel of our intellects and we become potential inmates for asylums the rest of our lives. No, not one of us knows when the world will cease to be a normal, ordinary place. You know, no one ever knows when he goes insane, he supposes it is the world altering, not himself. Rooms become peopled with strange shapes and beings, sounds distort themselves into awful cries and, poof. We are judged insane. He didn't like cats. Life without her would be an endless succession of purposeless days lived with a heavy hopelessness. Men who know are secure and men who don't know believe in luck. Come on now, laddie, Donaldine said. Just hold on and they'll pull you up to the plane. 'Tis a wee bit cold for a swim. My salvation is to let all this roll over me, to write, write and write some more. To hammer keys until I am finger worn to the second joint and then to hammer keys some more. To pile up copy, stack up stories, roll the wordage and generally conduct my life along the one line of success I have ever had. I write. 1. When he starts to outline a story, immediately give him several stories just like it to read and tell him 3 other plots. This makes his own story and his feeling for it vanish in a cloud of disrelated facts. 2. When he outlines a character, read excerpts from stories about such characters, saying that this will clarify the writer's ideas. As this causes him to lose touch with the identity he felt in his character by robbing him of individuality, he is certain to back away from ever touching such a character. 3. Whenever the writer proposes a story, always mention that his rate, being higher than other rates of writers in the book, puts up a bar to his stories. 4. When a rumor has stated that a writer is a fast producer, invariably confront him with the fact with great disapproval, as it is, of course, unnatural for one human being to think faster than another. 5. Always correlate production and rate, saying that it is necessary for the writer to do better stories than the average for him to get any consideration whatever. 6. It is a good thing to mention any error in a story bought, especially when that error is to be editorially corrected, as this makes the writer feel that he is being criticized behind his back and he wonders just how many other things are wrong. 7. Never fail to warn a writer not to be mechanical, as this automatically suggests to him that his stories are mechanical and, as he considers this a crime, wonders how much of his technique shows through and instantly goes to much trouble to bury mechanics very deep, which will result in laying the mechanics bare to the eye. 8. Never fail to mention and then discuss budget problems with the writer, as he is very interested. 9. By showing his vast knowledge of a field, an editor can almost always frighten a writer into mental paralysis, especially on subjects where nothing is known anyway. 10. Always tell a writer plot tricks, as they are not his business. You don't get rich writing science fiction. If you want to get rich, you start a religion. Force yourself to laugh and you'll soon find something to laugh about. A being causes his own feelings. Splurge on it. Freedom and ability can be seen to be somewhat synonymous. In what can a person become entrapped? Ideas. Ideas of disability are first and foremost in entrapment. A culture is only as great as its dreams, and its dreams are dreamed by artists. ZZT motioned with the blaster barrel. Why don't you just walk out of here and have a nice crap? Assist umbre par added de dis sil apisa added de multiple, in cat addon kai can desk opera ca assisti sunt door umbre sica pot vidia pren elesi pot sta subsor, l estains pista incantad. Naya saw to explain. He was to ensorcell my computer back to functionality. Even in the maelstrom, we did not have the blue screen of death. Was his job not information technology? Was his task not to fix such issues so I could return to selling paper, as is my task? But, madness and pain beyond comprehension? Bob did not meet Naya's eyes. Not even the Chaos Lords of the Maelstrom use Microsoft Word. What fresh hell is this place? L. Ron Hubbard, Writers of the Future, Vol. 34. Johnny Goodboy Tyler. Conqueror of Cyclos. Brown Limper spat on the bill. He suddenly seized the bill and tore it frantically into little pieces. Then he threw the pieces around with angry gestures. After that he gathered them all up again and, with a set, malevolent expression on his face, burned them. Then he pulverized the ashes with his fist. But somebody came in soon after and said with a delighted smile, "Have you seen the new banknote?" and waved one. Brown Limper rushed out of the room and found a place to vomit. Sometimes others seek to crush one down, to make nothing out of one's hopes and dreams, one's future and oneself. One of the primary barriers in this society to total freedom is economics. Suppressives have been weaving a web of economic entanglement for societies for some time, using economic misinterpretations or ignorance to involve those societies which only recently struck off their chains of actual slavery. Today the chains are made of economic restrictions and, to be blunt, economic lies. An understanding of economics is a bold step forward toward total freedom in a society. Aberrations tend to blow when their lies are exposed. Today almost any person has a present time problem, growing more pressing as time goes on and as our society evolves. It is a simple question: how can I live? The answer to this question in a broad general way can be found by attaining an understanding of a subject called economics. Ron Hubbard, the magic word. And speaking of fight action, there is one place where old man suspense can be made to work like an Elkton marrying parson. He had tried rather unsuccessfully to cheer her up and give her confidence. Ron Hubbard, Battlefield Earth. His valet. In the rush of getting him off, his clumsy damned valet had put the wrong boots on him. Oh, when he got home he would have the oaf punctured. Worse. Dragged through the streets and bitten to death by small children. When you mix science fiction with fantasy, you don't have a pure genre, the two are, to a professional, separate genres. I noticed today there is a tendency to mingle them, and then excuse the result by calling it imaginative fiction. Actually they don't mix well. Science fiction, to be credible, has to be based on some degree of plausibility. Fantasy gives you no limits at all. Writing science fiction demands care on the part of the author. Writing fantasy is as easy as strolling in the park. If thou, O man, would rule the words, the all, first learn thou, the folly of matter and the material lusts. Ron Hubbard, the great secret / a matter of matter. Unless there is something to free men into, the act of freeing is simply a protest of slavery. Card currently lives in Greensboro, North Carolina, with his wife, Christine Allen Card, where his primary activities are writing a review column for the local Rhinoceros Times and feeding birds, squirrels, chipmunks, possums, and raccoons on the patio. Lafayette Ronald Hubbard, March 13, 1911 to January 24, 1986, was an American author of science fiction and fantasy stories who founded the Church of Scientology. In 1950, Hubbard authored Dianetics, the modern science of mental health, and established a series of organizations to promote Dianetics. In 1952, Hubbard lost the rights to Dianetics in bankruptcy proceedings, and he subsequently founded Scientology. Thereafter, Hubbard oversaw the growth of the Church of Scientology into a worldwide organization. Born in Tilden, Nebraska, in 1911, Hubbard spent much of his childhood in Helena, Montana. After his father was posted to the U.S. Naval Base on Guam, Hubbard traveled to Asia and the South Pacific in the late 1920s. In 1930, Hubbard enrolled at George Washington University to study civil engineering but dropped out in his second year. He began his career as a prolific writer of pulp fiction stories and married Margaret Polly Grubb, who shared his interest in aviation. Hubbard was an officer in the Navy during World War II, where he briefly commanded 2 ships but was removed from command both times. The last few months of his active service were spent in a hospital, being treated for a variety of complaints. Scientology became increasingly controversial during the 1960s and came under intense media, government, and legal pressure in a number of countries. During the late 1960s and early 1970s, Hubbard spent much of his time at sea on his personal fleet of ships as Commodore of the Sea Organization, an elite quasi-paramilitary group of Scientologists. Hubbard returned to the United States in 1975 and went into seclusion in the California desert after an unsuccessful attempt to take over the town of Clearwater, Florida. In 1978, Hubbard was convicted of fraud after he was tried in absentia by France. In the same year, 11 high-ranking members of Scientology were indicted on 28 charges for their role in the church's Snow White program, a systematic program of espionage against the United States government. One of the indicted was Hubbard's wife Mary Sue Hubbard, who was in charge of the program. Ron Hubbard was named an unindicted co-conspirator. Hubbard spent the remaining years of his life in seclusion in a luxury motorhome on a ranch in California, attended to by a small group of Scientology officials. He died at age 74 in January 1986. Following Hubbard's death, Scientology leaders announced that his body had become an impediment to his work and that he had decided to drop his body to continue his research on another plane of existence. Though many of Hubbard's autobiographical statements have been found to be fictitious, the Church of Scientology describes Hubbard in hagiographic terms and rejects any suggestion that its account of Hubbard's life is not historical fact. According to the Church of Scientology, Hubbard produced some 65 million words on Dianetics and Scientology, contained in about 500,000 pages of written material, 3,000 recorded lectures and 100 films. His works of fiction included some 500 novels and short story. Thank you and be well.